So just because I'm writing, I would imagine on your end, it must be so stressful because it's like a deluge of feedback. And one of the consequences of my ad-libbing these thoughts is they're coming out in a more or less unstructured form. And I don't want to deluge you with too much stuff. All right, so you might want to tease apart consistency and objectivity. I think these are two things. And I think if you had to pick, what would you rather have, consistency or objectivity?
Probably
Like imagine,
objectivity.
I probably would agree. I think if you're objective, the consistency takes care of itself. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
yeah, like it's an epiphenomenon, right? Like if I'm being objective in my hiring practices, I work for a tech company and I'm hiring, let's say, the best engineers that are coming out of MIT. There's a consistency will just take care of itself. It's hard. It's kind of like, yeah. So you might want to think about teasing those things apart. And you might want to provide, again, an argument. Would put A for argument here, an argument for this, and an argument for that. Something a little more robust. You can keep the stuff about the branding. It is true. It does hurt your brand if you're not doing that great in hiring. But then again, who will know, right? Only the people who applied. So it's not a huge pool of folks, unless they maybe go online and say something, which you might, who knows, right? And another reason for here this claim that AI consistently and objectively process data is because AI uses uniform criteria for all applications, and humans bring natural biases to decision making. This is of course this is an argument that I'm hoping you're going to take to task in the other one, because these are learning, AI learns on a data set. This argument won't be as strong as we would hope it would be. You will have a flip side to that. Of course, you know that because AI is trained on certain limited data sets, it has its own algorithmic biases.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. And the terrifying thing with this is look, man, the idiosyncrasies of a human are one thing, but it doesn't scale. So you're Joe Blow, you're sitting at your desk, right? And this is an argument for the flip side of this issue here. If you're Joe Blow and you've got your biases, they're going to be different than the other Joe Blow with their biases. Whereas you can imagine if we outsource the first cut to an AI company that provides the AI for this stuff, nationwide or even globally, we could have now the same set of biases. And one hope you would have is that the biases cancel each other out, give the applicants a shot, right? Like, so yeah, so that's just brainstorming here. Yeah. Uses uniform criteria for all application. Okay, cool. I don't see anything else to say here. I'll just flag that as something definitely that my reflex would be to think about the opposite side of that. And maybe you already go there. So we'll see. All right. And so the conclusion was that employers should use AI to filter job applicants. And by the way, employers, you can also, you can narrow that down to industries. So employers in a certain industry, you can say, if you feel like it, just be aware that that's a possibility. Like you might want to say employers in like HR or whatever, right? Like you're not under any obligation to cast your net as wide as it's being cast right now. You understand?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you want, that's a decision for you and your group. I'm going to check in. Mehul, you're listening, and that's your group as well. And by Parminder, is this helpful? Type in yes, by the way. You're listening in on this stuff. Just want to check in with folks. Okay, cool. All right, neat. So AI increases the overall quality of hired employees. Oh, I'm looking forward to a justification for that. All right, so that would be a great reason. So why should I believe that? Well, because having the best candidate match increases the quality of the employee, and AI improves candidate matching. Fair enough. Well, why should I believe that? Advanced software can predict the best fit based on language processing and noticing various psychological parameters. This looks like it's circular reasoning, a little bit like kind of saying the same thing in a fancy way. It kind of jargonizes the conclusion, like that premise above here, P, jargonizes the conclusion, but says the same thing. It's like techies for saying the same thing.
Okay.
Would you?
Yeah, like
see
basically,
that?
I'm thinking that, like you think about like facial recognition and like micro expressions or but you think about
Say as much.
sort of
Say as much. Be precise. Be precise. So here's an argument you can make,
writing.
right?
Yeah.
You can talk about, like, let's say it can tell if you lie. It can detect micro expression. Although I'm not convinced, by the way, we humans are the best lie detectors. Like that is something we're trying to model it. We're not. AI is not better at us at that by any means. But you know, you
Right.
could perhaps think that there's micro things, and it is true. AI, in its own alien way, picks up on patterns we don't pick up. So that could be an argument for it being able to do something others don't. I don't know that it's a strong enough reason to say that it's there for the first cut. Certainly, as things stand, just looks like it's just, unless this is unpacked as something a little more concrete and psychological.
Okay.
That's not the right word. So yeah, it's psychological. No big deal. Um,
Oh,
yeah, no worries. We catch typos at the stage too. That's all good. When you're going to proof your stuff, you know, you're going to be, if you do this right, you're going to be dreaming about these argument maps, and maybe you already have. Um, and so yeah, it just looks like this. Just looks like the sales reps way of saying the same thing, right?
okay.
Yeah. So just watch out for that. I just think that's not super helpful, especially given that and improves candidate matching and matching with what you want to finish that sentence, right? Matching with the job description, right? Or something like that. The job, you know,
Right, right.
the function. Yeah, just sounds a little, gets almost like saying dating a little bit, right? So with the job description, and having the best candidate, no candidate that best matches, you might want to reword that. Having the candidate that best matches the job description increases the quality of the employee. It doesn't increase it, is the of the service rendered by, again, I'm picking with words here, but yeah, that's okay. That's not nothing. This is what I would flag. I'd love to see more, right? Here, especially, I feel like that's a big premise here. AI improves candidate,
Okay.
you know, the matching with the job description. That's ultimately the most contentious part. Like, does it? And how would you
Right.
know, right? Like, this the thing, right? This, how would we even measure that, given that we discard so much? You'd have to compare that with, I mean, again, I don't want to go into methodology here. It's not like you have all of that to settle, but you'd have to think we need to do under controlled conditions, human judgment, AI judgment, know the results and the outcomes of what people have selected, and have a longitudinal study that says that AI performs better at humans at picking, let's say, retention
Right.
rate
Yeah.
and quality performance and all that. So we're not, this is such a contentious claim. Such a contentious claim. Given how contentious it is, it would require a lot of support. But hey, if AI increases the overall quality of hired employees, and I don't know if you want to say quality, you want to maybe
Mm-hmm.
say something more robust, like fit or aptness for the whatever. I don't know what we mean by quality, right? There's lots of things that could mean. So maybe that could be made a little more precise. But yeah, that's an argument. Cool. So far we have, again, if we lasso these things, we have, let me zoom out, kind of practicing what I'm preaching here. We can lasso these arguments, and I'm seeing them for the first time. So this is my way of making sense of them. So this is the argument from objectivity and consistency, which could be splintered into two arguments. This is the argument from um, best overall match, or something like that. And we'd have to know how that's different from, yeah, okay, that's just a little different. And then let's look at this other argument. I'm interested in seeing what you're doing. So far, so good. You got thick skin. This is. You want me to
Oh
continue?
yeah, I'm good. No, this is
Okay,
great.
cool. All right, cool. Hiring new staff is a large investment. Is or can be. No need to make this any
Right.
stronger than it needs to be. Yeah, can be a large investment. So you might want to say can be. Using AI filters provides cost savings. That's for sure, unless the AI filters cost a fortune. Saving money is good for a business. Cool. All right. So what would be reasons for thinking that AI filters provide cost savings? They process a large volume of data in a short time. True. Humans can only process limited. True. And human labor costs more money. Yeah, that's pretty strong. So let's circle all of that. And that's definitely an argument that should be there still. I'm going to put that in blue. This is the argument from cost saving. So right now you have an argument from consistency and objectivity, which probably should focus mainly on objectivity. It's more objective. So let me just now really zoom out and ask ourselves, what are the takeaways and write this, right? So essentially in purple here on the right, it's more objective. It's better. Now, that's the one in orange. How is that different from more objective? Like, I'm just
Okay.
concerned there's a bit of an overlap. Like what we mean by when we say objectively, let me just use a neutral pen here. What we mean when we say objectively just seems to be better match. Right? I'm going to make
Right. So
an
we could kind
equivalent.
of expand into, the objectivity comes from the fact that it's matching the resume
Yeah,
more
so,
accurately.
so the arrow here, the arrow would not. So what I'm saying is the arrow, instead of this arrow here going down straight to this conclusion, the arrow might actually go down here.
Right.
You see that? Not there.
Yeah.
So like something like
Okay.
that, that would be a kind of a feature of objectivity, is that there's a fit between the job description and the profile of the candidate. And then you'd have a story here to tell about why AI is better than humans. Which, by the way, you can sell why AI is good. And you could also sell why humans are bad. So there's definitely a bigger
Yes,
story there.
absolutely.
Then there's this other thing about cost. The argument by cost, this is the blue one here. So that's cost. That I think will kind of be separate from the rest. So I think that could stay separate. And it definitely is a consideration that's weighing heavily on folks' minds. So you got a really strong first draft. I mean, I'm coming down hard on it because I have material to come down hard on it. And what I
No, that's
appreciate that
good.
you've
I
done
mean,
right. No, it's great. You're starting at, if this is the worst it's ever going to be, it's a really strong start. You're out of the gates really strong. What's good and what you have to keep is that each proposition has to be grammatically complete when you read it. Like it has to make sense. And so far, I think everything you've done is like that. Like I'm reading each thing in the bubbles. What I'd want is not to, like, I know it kind of fills the place and you worked really hard on putting this spatially laid out, but I'd want you to also think about, brainstorm, really dig the bottom of the barrel here, brainstorm with your group if there's something else completely other than cost, objectivity, and efficiency. Like if there's something else you may have overlooked, like I don't know, right? Like another reason for it. And before settling on thinking, okay, that's what we're going to go with the press with, really brainstorm with your group. And again, this is a fun part, right? Because it's not like you're really pushing the boundaries of your thinking when you do that. I would invite you to just think about a surprising argument that you might make for it that's not obvious. These are the ones I think that would pop up to my mind at first, but there's a lot of value when we say considerations that are not the sort we would have naturally expected. So you just think a little bit about that. Does that make sense? Is it kind of a work for you to do on your own? Yeah. Just
What
maybe
if
there's more
like
here.
we focused on the enhanced data utilization, like you think about data farming, that kind of thing.
Yeah, this would be in the vicinity here, right? So this would start to figure in this region here. Yeah, there could be, maybe that's what maybe I feel like a little hungry because there's more I'd like to hear. I'm not, the piece of techies there, legalese or whatever, advanced software could predict the best fit based on language. That just re-says what we want to say. It kind of unpacks a little bit, but I'd want a little more. So maybe it's in that region. Again, maybe that's where, if you brainstorm with your group, but the cool thing is you'll be able to know where that fits based on what you brainstorm. You might be like, it's with that black circle right now, or it might be completely coming out of left field. Like you might start fresh, like really think like, what's another consideration, right? That you might put for why AI is good for the first cut. I'll give you one completely. I'm sharing with you. And you're free to roll the ball with that because you'd have to develop it. But here's one thing. We could do this. We could make provisions and ask an AI to make, precisely to account for error and to give everyone a chance, to let in some random candidates. It's like, think about when we have a lottery, right? When we have a lottery, you have the little balls. You know, when people are playing the lottery, the provincial lottery, and whatever, what's this week's worth $5 million, and you have those big spheres with little balls that are bouncing around. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it's hard for us to doctor randomness. We humans, right? If I ask you to name a tool right now, name me a tool, quick.
Hammer.
Yeah. Name your color, quick.
Red.
Yeah. Everyone answers that.
I know, right?
Like everyone. It's a classic example. We call prototype theory in psychology of concepts, everyone answers that. Like no one says like sandpaper and then maroon, right?
Well, and it's
Which is the
like
correct answer.
there's
And
the
so
study that they did with the teachers when they told them that the students were all good students that were bad students and bad students that were good students, like grade wise, and then
yeah.
how the students
Oh no,
totally
those are
flipped
priming
that
effects. Oh
year
yeah,
just
those are
because.
super well documented. Yeah, yeah. So here's the thing though, but my point is more general than that. Randomness, because we from an evolutionary standpoint, and I'm sorry to teach you a little bit, but I hope you find this is cool. Because from an evolutionary standpoint, we need these heuristics. We don't approach the world as disinterested observers. We're very much interested in what's going on in our surroundings. We always come to the world with projects, goals, values, and ambitions, and we foreground and background some things in our environment constantly. And it serves us well from an evolutionary standpoint. But as far as mathematical randomness, we're not disposed to do that. That's why we outsource. Like no one would trust a lottery if we just had some person name out the numbers and trust that they're telling us at random what the numbers. We put it in a sphere with rolling balls everywhere because that's our only way to assure that there's no human or other human rationale in the loop.
Yeah.
AI, this is a thought that never occurred to me before. We're thinking about this. Could be instructed to randomize some of the applicants so that they make it to the next cut in a way that no human sitting at a desk could, because they'd have their own biases. If you tell them randomize, they wouldn't really be random, right? Maybe they'd be selecting people who went to their alma mater or people whose names are short or people whose whatever, right? Like all sorts of things could be fitting in there that would actually not make it random. Whereas you can make a completely different argument here than the three you have on there that says that AI is able to perform a randomness function that we humans are, precisely because we're humans, ill-suited to do. And what that would do is, who knows, maybe surprisingly, those that make it to the second cut could, once you apply those filters, make it past and all the way to the finish line, precisely because they were given a random chance on the account that we might be wrong and we want to give everyone a fair shot. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Does that?
absolutely. No, totally.
I think that was. I think that's a cool reason, and it's look how again I'm thinking outside the box here. That's very different from the ones you'll typically hear, and you're free to steal that idea if you're able to articulate it and run with it. I'm going to check in with folks who are listening
Thanks.
in. Am I crazy, or did that make any sense to everybody else? You can let me know in the chat. Teresa's kind of like unmuting, but folks who are listening in on this. Yeah, cool. All right, because I need you to check in on, because sometimes this is what happens when you're brainstorming, right? Some of the stuff you could say, kind of like when you're high on cannabis, it sounds real smart, but then when you rethink about what you just said the day after, you're like, that made no sense, right? That's just completely crazy. I think it's something there, right? Yeah. So I would love to be like, imagine if you're the kind of person who always gets cut off because I don't know, maybe their name is spelled in French, and then you find yourself on the other cut because that didn't filter you out. You were randomly selected. Who knows, right? So there's a reason there. And again, there's more possibilities there. I'd invite you to think about that. But yeah, cool. Can you want to give me the slide for Teresa? If I make you presenter again, you want to give me the slide for the next one?
Yeah,
Your
I
diagram?
uploaded it as well.
Okay, cool. So switch to that one.
Okay.
So when you go back to that plus, you should be able to have that as a separate thing. And then you click on that and it will show it.
There we go.
Beautiful. All right, that's working out well. That's working out great so far. And Parminder, I'm tasking you with a lot of stuff because we're working a lot on Group A. You still good? It's still. I would hope this a lot of benefits you as well. Just want to check in with Parminder because this Group B, and I'm really dwelling a lot on Group A right now. Cool. All right. Cool. Let's do this one. And I'm interested in, again, I'm very selfishly interested in making progress on these issues because they weigh heavily on my mind. Employers should use AI filter job applicants. It should not. Yeah, you do not. Should not. Am I right?
Oh, you're totally right. Oops. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. No worries. No worries. And again, if you're going to put a restriction of scope, if you're going to say first round, second round, or if you're going to make it industry specific, right? Filter like first round, second round, industry. Whatever you do from one side, you got to do on the other. Okay. So if you do decide to sort of narrow that beam,
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so why the hell should I or anybody else agree to this? I'll use a red pen because now it's in black. AI may eliminate or misclassify quality applicants. Why? Because AI can interpret data incorrectly. You'll need to tell us more. So given the beautiful story you said earlier, I need something. I mean, it's as simple as saying machines can mess up,
Okay.
or machines were the AI was trained on a certain data set, and that data set can whatever. There may be bad actors, pirates, Russian pirates intervening, and who knows, right? But give me more. Just don't stop it at that, especially since it was such a selling point that it'll do such a great job. So essentially, you're
Okay.
negating that full frontal assault. So you got to give me more. AI may eliminate or misclassify quality applicants. Eliminate. What do you mean by misclassify? I mean, do you need this word, or could you just say eliminate
Um,
quality applicants? Because we're just talking about the first filter.
yeah,
Like
I
what?
mean, I guess I'm thinking like it could put them in the wrong category, but yeah, I don't know if I need
Yeah,
any
the same
more.
work. It does the same work. If you eliminate, it goes in the dustbin. That's the category it goes in. So
Okay.
trim the fancy words you don't need. Why? Because AI is limited by the quality of imported data, and this looks like a reason for that.
Right.
Yeah. Um, Algorithms can't account for personality. Oh, that's a difference. Okay. AI use algorithm data sets to determine legibility. Algorithms miss the nuances of human qualities. That kind of says this. This says the same thing. So this is circular. Yeah, the premise seems to say what the conclusion says, just differently. So give me something better.
Okay.
And can't account for personality. How much of that goes on a CV anyways? Like, what are we trimming here? Maybe there's grounds to sort of say, what's the data that I'm presenting? Is it like I have to make a 5-minute video and an AI watches my 5-minute video? What do you have in mind based on the case here? What are they looking at? The phone
Right.
interviews, the CV,
We haven't gotten that
what else?
specific, so that's a good point.
Yeah. So have a look at that, because if you're going to be bring up this whole idea of human personality, like, I'm sorry, but it doesn't. No CV is human personality. Maybe the font, but that's it. How dare you use Garamond? Um, Creativity, cultural fit, interpersonal skill, difficult to quantify. Um, Difficult but not impossible. And the thing is with AI is it latches onto patterns. So this just sounds like it says a little. It just seems a little contentious. So this region, I would say, just requires a bit more work. There's
Okay.
something valuable you want to say in this conclusion. It can't account for personality, but I don't think that that's the right way of saying it. That it doesn't account for personality. It kind of does, but there's something narrow what you want to say a bit more to what you actually want to
Okay.
say. Yeah, it just sounds like a bit of a platitude. AI uses algorithms and data sets to determine eligibility. It does, but so do we. I mean, in some important
Right.
sense, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, given the nature of what AI can do, which is pretty impressive, I have to regrettably say, and given the arguments that were kind of said at the other side, although they needed more unpacking, I don't feel like that's the strongest argument, but it is there. It is there.
Okay.
It's something. It's a draft. Yeah. You might want to rethink that. And again, luckily, I'm recording, so you can revisit that at your leisure. While a candidate may no longer wish to be hired by the employer, hey, you have that. AI interaction can alienate potential candidates. Oh, so it turns out you did have that there.
Yep.
They're impersonal. Cool. All right, cool. Impersonal if they know that it's AI. Do they know? Do we know we're talking to an AI when you're talking to them?
Just because humans can sort of naturally figure out they're talking to a bot when
No,
certain
no,
things
they can't.
happen.
No, they can't. The AI passes a Turing test. There's no way. This how bad it is. This is
Okay.
how bad or good. We're
Well,
not
this
there.
is from a specific case that the guy said that he could tell. So,
All right. Well, the thing is, you could. Okay, so right now you could claim you can tell, right? But there's
mhm.
also like paranoia. Like folks could be talking to a real human.
Yeah.
And no, but I'm serious. The fact that a person on the one end of the I literally professionally work on this, so it's really trickier than it seems. The fact that one
Mhm.
person on one end of that communication loop is convinced that the other person's a robot doesn't mean they're a robot. They could also be wrong. They could be wrong about the fact that it purports to be human when in fact it's a robot, but it could also be wrong in thinking that it's a robot. Like when it like your sign goes both ways. So
Okay.
it's not obvious. Like there's more to this. For legal reasons, folks need to disclose that they're talking to an AI. So I'm almost certain that they will have to say you're going to have a conversation with an AI, and then that
Right.
turns people off for legal reasons, but not for dialogical reasons, like having to do with dialogue. Like we can be fooled. Trust me.
So you maybe would just take out that top bubble and just stick with AI interactions can alienate potential candidates,
Yeah,
or
it
do
can
you
alienate potential,
think it?
but you might want to say something, right? Maybe not
Okay.
that. They are impersonal, but they like you might want to say there's other arguments there. You can say like just knowing that the company cares so little doesn't
Right.
bode well for my being in that company, right? You might say that, like, If they can't even be busy enough to have a human, what happens when I'm going to be in a time of need? Let's say I make it on the other side, I'm hired. It doesn't bode well. Kind of like one of those first dates and the person's being weird or whatever. It's like that doesn't bode well. If if they're rude or whatever, that's a sample, a very small sample. Maybe it's going to be ruder even more downstream. So same thing with that, right? It doesn't bode well on the other side. So there's arguments you can make, I think, more arguments than saying the interviews are impersonal, because it's questionable whether that's even a true premise, right? Because they are precisely personal, and we have passed the Turing test. We're past the point of distinguishability, as freaky as that is. And that's crazy, because I've been teaching this course for a while, and it's like I couldn't have said that like 5 years ago, right, or even 2 years ago. We're there. But that's a great argument. I would definitely keep that in. I'll circle these with color in a moment, but I think that's a great reason that it's in the case. All the more reason to look in the article. All the more reason to look at more articles. And AI invariably perpetuates existing cultural biases. Give me more, and it's too strong. No, inadvertently. That's cool. Okay, so I read that wrongly. Inadvertently, cool. All right. Tell me more, just a little more, because its data sets are limited and blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So there's an argument there. That's terrific. Businesses should not participate in suspected illegal activities, and using AI potentially opens up companies to legal liabilities. Where's this arrow pointing? Because right now it looks like it's pointing at the plus. It needs to point to a claim. Left or right?
Yeah, you're right. I think it was supposed to go to the right.
The right. Here we go. So there you go. It opens up legal lab. Why? Because AI has many privacy and security concerns. Very few laws regarding artificial exist. Well, that's not going to be compatible with the idea that, oh yeah, it is compatible, because there's a lot of laws on how the data is gathered. New legislation takes a long time to create. You might be missing a premise here, right? You might want to say very few laws, because otherwise it looks like it's just clashing. There's very few laws, but then it's going to get into trouble. There's very few laws on data collection. You see that? So there's maybe distinction to be made here. You might want to put something else, right? On data collection, there's very few laws, but we do have laws after that on how these things could, like you could be sued. You could be sued for anything. But yeah, otherwise it just flat out seems to make no sense, right? If there's no laws, then how can you open yourself to legal liabilities? So there's some finessing here in this region that needs to happen. Yeah. If you've never been in the same room as a philosopher, I pity you. Welcome to what it is to have someone pick apart stuff. So just love for everyone who's listening in on this, right, and watching right now. Like I see Mehul Parman and everybody else. It's like this is what we do, right? And so yeah, it's almost as bad as it's almost as bad as being with a lawyer doing a prenuptial agreement or something. But like for every little damn thing. AI has many privacy and data security concerns. Why? Because it's relatively new technology, and new technology is more susceptible to data hacking. That's a legitimate and distinct argument there. Cool. Like looks like you've got, again, I'm going to circle these and give them names. This is the argument from legal problems, I want to say, in purple, right? So legal, I think. That captures it well. I'm going to put another color. The argument here is losing quality applicants, right? So all of this, I'll put this in orange. Loss of good applicants. You don't want to lose good applicants. Those are reasons against, right? You can get in legal trouble, you lose good applicants. Just broad tectonic plates here. What else could we be thinking about that maybe we didn't, it's not showing up here? It's legal problems, there's loss. We're business ethics. We're ethics. We can talk about all sorts of things like justice, for instance, in the the very most demanding sense. I don't know. Like maybe there's those are very concrete, practical considerations, but there are other. You could just argue that it's you could argue that it's kind of immoral on other grounds. I don't know. Maybe there's that. Unless you venture into territory, you have to be comfortable in the territory you're going to venture. But I don't know. Is there something and again, everyone can brainstorm, including Crew B, chip in if you want. But like, is that something we could be kind of like I did a moment ago, right? Like This is the part where we stretch our brains. This is where I'm asking you, even if it looks like it's complete, how do we know it's complete? Elaine, you have an idea?
Yeah, just right before the meeting, like we were talking about. So if the company relies AI to do the majority of the job of searching, then that position will be open in the AR position, HR position. So
Yeah.
will be less job opportunity, which will be affect the economy kind of.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. So that's distinct. Thanks, Elaine. That's distinct from from all these other considerations, right? It's like, well,
Mhm.
like this is going to come back and bite you in the bus, like bite you in the butt. Like think about it. If you, we're all on a totem pole, and we love, let's say it's a horrible analogy, but let's say I'm a totem pole and I'm the animal in between, and I need to go to the washroom. I'm not too concerned because hey, I go to the washroom without moving, and all the people beneath me get my poop. But there's someone above me, and if you generalize that, if they poop on my head, that's not going to be too fun. We're always have this bias to always thinking about the people below us and how, it doesn't matter because we let them go and we poop on them. But what happens when you get, like, it generalizes, once AI creeps in, there's AI creep, right? What's next? Right? And the person who buys the AI software, I guarantee you whatever they're doing is fungible and replaceable by AI. Whoever's the schmuck who says that deal with the devil, makes that bargain, they're next on the chopping block, right? And so you're absolutely right. There's a concern there about whether or not this is economically sustainable. We use the word sustainability a lot when we talk about ecosystems and the environment, but you have to think about economic sustainability as well, right? Just as we can, like, if I overfish, we all understand that that's not good for me or anyone in the future, because if I deplete the cod stock, maybe I'm having a great meal now, but I'm not going to have one next week. It's the same thing for economic depletion, if you will, right? Like you can think about sustainability in the economy. There's a kind of like I hate to do the metaphor of the Lion King here, but the circle of life, right? It's like everyone's moving around money. Why? Because they earn and they spend and they earn and they spend and they earn and they spend. And this complex system is what we call our economy. You might make a completely distinct argument, which is what Elaine, I think, gestured at, that there's cutting off jobs and that's in no one's interest. Certainly the person not being whose job is being cut, but also boomerangs back, because remember, we're coupled systems. Once you empower let's say that Silicon Valley company and you buy their products, you have an attrition of the skill set of the people who used to do that job. Now you depend on them. Let's say they raise their rates. Next year, version 2.0 triples. But you fired all your HR people. And now it turns out it costs you more and you want to hand it back. But let's say it's been a while and they're not coming back, or they lost their skill set. Does that make sense, Elaine? Does that capture? I'm riffing here. I'm
Yeah,
ad-libbing.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
So they,
my concern is just like if we put this way, then we're are a little bit off the topic, saying since our argument is just like should not use AI for the first job filter.
yeah,
Like,
I mean, I don't know that it's off topic. I mean, I think it's still legitimate. The thing is, the argument turns out to be able to support even more demanding conclusions. It'll support that conclusion that you have on the board right now at the very
mhm.
bottom, but it would still then also, it's so powerful that it would be able to support other conclusions,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So yeah, it's not like you're going on. It still would be. All it means is you have a stronger argument than you need, but that's perfectly fine,
Okay.
right? Yeah. So like like imagine, for instance, I say, well, if you misbehave, God send you to hell, and that's my premise, and I draw the conclusion, like, don't cheat on when you're playing Monopoly with your friends. That's a very weak conclusion, but it's still supported by that premise. It also happens to support, like, don't commit murder, right? It's a very strong premise that can support different conclusions. You're just using it for a small, pathetic little reason, a pathetic little scenario, which is just like playing board games with your friends, and you're saying don't cheat, and you're invoking a big bazooka for it. But that big bazooka could do a lot of lifting for other things. I think the argument from cutting jobs is not, like, it's not going too far afield. I think it's definitely a reason for why one ought not to use this. How you unpack that space in blue that I've put here with the word jobs, that's entirely up to you. That's a lot of real estate there that you need to develop. But I think it has the advantage of being a different consideration than legal ones or having to lose the best candidates. Teresa, does that make sense? And folks from Group A?
Yeah.
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 More work for you, right? But I'll tell you, if you do everything that I've said, and Lord knows I've given you a huge laundry list of things to do, you're looking like a really, really strong presentation that's going to make it in my Hall of Fame for the next semesters. So don't count your don't count your chickens till they've hatched, but it's looking like you've got a lot. And of course, now that I've given you so much generous time, I need to see the change, right? Like I want to see the next time I see it, like I want to feel like, wow, great, nice, right? But it's looking really, really strong. Looking really strong. And again, notice what I've done when I ask you to sort of pause, wait, lasso, give them names, and then think, is there something we could have overlooked? Like, I feel like that's really a valuable skill to do, to carry that over for the rest of your life, but also for like, you might do another round of thinking outside the box still. Because it could be like the most cool discoveries are precisely the ones that, like, they're not, like, we all have the same reflexes. Like the riverbed means that the water is always flowing in the same direction. So all of us kind of like, hammer and red, we all think the same way. And I think students will all be aware of these arguments. But if you can come up with arguments that make us go, in a very profound manner that never, even in the ballpark, occurred to us. It's kind of like discovering, the new world, like Christopher Columbus. There's a new continent. It's like, wow. Okay, that's really redrawing the map. Group A, is anything else you want from me? Then I'll give you as much love to Group B if you need it.
I think the only thing we were also wondering is the example presentations that you had either focused on a particular case and it outlined the case before they went into the arguments, or sort of introduced the topic. We're a little bit confused on how we should introduce the topic. Should we talk about the history of AI ethics or AI in the workplace?
That sounds like I want to yawn when I hear that. Like, just pick up with the live issue you found online, right? And then put us up to speed on what's going on, right?
So we can have a really short introduction and just move into the issues.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it depends, right? Here's the thing, right? I want folks to spend some time going over their diagrams, and I think that if the narration above and beyond the visuals is most helpful when it does more than just read, right? Like if you're able to say things in the narration about your diagrams that they say more, like they show how these claims are related and here, however, blah, 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 blah. I think that's helpful. But you definitely, if we're going to take up 10 to 20 minutes, you'll have to give us a sense of what the hell's going on. I think most people know about this one. So it's not like you do have to do a lot of table setting. People know what AI is. People know what job applications are. And I think they all understand the rationale for switching over to AI for a first cut. But they're probably concerned because they might themselves find themselves on the chopping block. So you've got lots of freedom there. So, and it's not like I don't count that part. I do. It's not like visuals don't help. Visuals are great. Don't burden your slides with a lot of text. You'll have an audio component. So my advice to you is use that well, right? Kind of like if you see my classes, I don't know how courses are with your other profs. I don't use PowerPoint. I use something else. It's all custom made. What I do is just Word files, and then I do Photoshop, and then I PDF. But it's not like I ever have big slides with lots of text. Like I talk a lot and I use visuals. I think if you stay away from lots and lots of text, that's great. And it has to feel snappy and engaging, because it would really suck if it sounded tedious and we felt like yawning when in fact you've got such a great issue on your hands. So make it pop like the popcorn that it is. It's a really, really pressing issue that everyone has on their mind. Show the real case, how it anchors, and look at multiple articles so you can show how different companies are doing this. And what folks have said, if you have snippets of people both on the employer and the employee side of that equation, little sound bites and quotes from them on what they thought about this. And then yet that really will get us excited, because we like stories just as much and perhaps more than we like arguments. So tell a story. So you got lots of freedom there. I'm sorry, that's very hand wavy, but I think
maybe going into an example, like if we're talking about the legal aspect, talking about briefly an example of what that might entail.
Yeah, I mean, that should figure in your diagram though. So the thing is, if it shouldn't be in that sort of table setting, like if
right. And I mean, as we're going through the diagram,
if it was worth enough, like you're supposed to do a detailed discussion of the law as it currently stands in your introduction. Hopefully, there's an old saying, if you see a gun hanging on the wall in the first act, it has to fire in the third act. Like it tie it all up. So if you mention that in the introductory portion where you set up your case, make sure it shows up in your diagram. Otherwise, we'll be wondering, like, why did we hear all this legalese and all this state of the art about what law or lack thereof is going on right now. But I'd love a refresher because that's a moving target. It's been changing a lot. Let me know what's going on with the law right now. What's the state of the art on that? The United States and Europe, specifically Europe, has passed a lot of legislation lately on AI and trying to contour the limits of what can and cannot be done. Although they're trying to not stifle innovations and not quite sure. So we're in new terrain. So folks are being kind of vague on what's being said. But yeah, there's lots of ways this can go. So you have lots of freedom there.
Okay.
The same thing as you did with the blank pages before you fill them up right now. You had lots of freedom. You used it pretty well. You had a great first draft. Same thing. And then have a person you trust just watch your presentation as a draft, right? Was this fun? And seek feedback. And if they were like, that part kind of boring, you could have skipped that. Or that seemed to have, if you can say something in, fewer words than you need to, then always opt for fewer. It's much clearer, right? So yeah. And you can also, one of the things you can do is you can zoom in. Not a lot of people do this. Most people do all the case first, then the argument diagrams. But you can do case, argument diagrams, and go back to a bit of case when you're zooming in on a region of your diagram, and then go back to the diagram, right? Like you could
that's kind of what I was thinking. Like maybe going into step by step. Like okay.
It's ambitious. The structure would be ambitious. Your 20 minutes, you'd have to orchestrate that. There'd be kind of like almost what do we call screenplay, right? Like you'd have to storyboard it. But you could do that.
I like
you could
PowerPoint, so
yeah, well, look, if you're good at it, I want to be impressed. And the thing is, it benefits you because you get full marks. Plus, I get to have an exemplar that I'm going to show my students for the rest of whatever, right? So not only will it benefits so much over the long haul. So feel free, right? It's feel free, and you can also, if you want, you can do. I dabble in YouTube videos once in a while if I have a minute of free time, which, as you've noticed from my diapers and my teaching, I don't. But like YouTube's cool. You can make a full-on video if you want and send us to YouTube. That's totally like if you're that confident. Then the thing with YouTube that's cool is, I'm writing an arrow right now. Like you can do that on YouTube in real time. Like as you narrate your diagram, you can just go ahead and record something. Like right now, I'm just recording this. Once I stop the recording, I can just take the file, right-click it, save as, and I'll have an MP4. And the MP4 can be uploaded to YouTube. And that allows me in real time to do things like, point at stuff and then undo that arrow, kind of like I've been doing when I was teaching. So if you want, the sky's the limit. How you want to do this? Bare minimum would be PowerPoint with audio, but if you want to expand your wings and try something else, and the thing is, and I want to give you a motivation for doing this. If you ever want to build a work portfolio because you work in an area where you want to add something that make your CV stand out from the pile, link a YouTube video. I can't believe anyone will forget you. So if all of you work in this group on this presentation and it's super sharp and you worked it out and it looks really cool and you upload a quick 10 to 20 minute YouTube video that discusses this issue where you make yourself look good because you're so pro, man, that's going to be like your ambassador for the workforce. Like no one going to be able to look past that, and it makes you look like a pro. Is that an extra? I'm putting adding an extra carrot here to really make it juicy. But if you put in that extra hour,
see what we can pull off in a week.
Yeah, the ROI. The return on it be a big week, right? But look, I've done YouTube videos in as little as a day. It could totally be done, especially when you got your stuff prepared. You did all the thinking, and then you just grab that recording, right? And then you just narrate it if you feel comfortable and you know your stuff through and through. And then after that, you upload it. So that would be a huge return on investment. It would impress me, but then it would impress bosses as well. Because I'm just trying to think in terms of the bigger picture here. You're going to have life after this course, so you might get a lot of bang for your buck. Yep, just something like that. I don't mean to scare you. I'm not expecting it, but you can.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm impressed already. So I'm not grading the early drafts and I'm not grading our interactions, but I'll say off the record, I'm impressed. So it's looking like a really strong start. So good stuff.